Breaking just 1 minute ago, FBI and ICE have launched a sweeping operation in Minnesota as a massive trafficking investigation expands into law enforcement leadership.
3:18 a.m., Minneapolis, Minnesota. The temperature is 14 degrees below zero. Snow falls in thick curtains under amber streetlights. The city is silent, locked in winter darkness, the kind of cold that keeps even the desperate inside. And then, cutting through that silence, come the engines. FBI, ICE, DEA, U.S. Marshals, Homeland Security investigations. Minnesota State Patrol SWAT units that have been vetted and cleared by federal command because they cannot trust local agencies anymore. Over 400 federal agents converging on 17 locations simultaneously across Minneapolis, St. Paul, Duluth, and Rochester. Black Hawk helicopters thunder overhead, thermal imaging cameras sweeping rooftops and alleyways. Armored vehicles roll through intersections, blocking escape routes, sealing off entire city blocks. At exactly 3:21 a.m., the raids begin. In downtown Minneapolis, a SWAT team breaches the 5th floor of a luxury condominium building near the riverfront. The apartment belongs to a sergeant we'll call Marcus Thornton, a 15-year veteran of the Minneapolis Police Department. They find him awake, sitting at his kitchen table with a laptop open and a 9mm handgun within reach. He doesn't resist. On his laptop screen, live surveillance feeds from 6 different human trafficking houses scattered across the Twin Cities, each one showing women locked in basement rooms, migrants packed into windowless storage areas, children sleeping on concrete floors. In the bedroom, agents discover $280,000 in cash vacuum-sealed in plastic bags, hidden inside a false panel behind the dresser. In St. Paul, federal agents hit a warehouse operating under the name Northern Logistics Solutions. The front office looks legitimate: desks, filing cabinets, shipping schedules. But in the back, behind a reinforced steel door, they find a processing center for drug distribution. Tables covered with digital scales, vacuum sealers, packaging materials, and stacks of pre-labeled shipping boxes. On the shelves, 470 kilograms of methamphetamine, 215 kilograms of cocaine, and 1.8 million fentanyl pills pressed to look like prescription Percocet. 3 men in police uniforms are inside when the agents breach. Not tactical gear, not undercover vests. Full Minneapolis Police Department uniforms, badges visible, service weapons holstered. They freeze when the flashbangs detonate. All 3 are arrested on site. In Duluth, near the Canadian border, agents storm a safe house operating as a migrant smuggling way station. The property is registered to a shell company, but patrol records show Minneapolis police have responded to noise complaints at this address 11 times in the past 2 years and filed reports stating no violations found. Inside, federal agents find 37 people locked in the basement and second floor. Men, women, children. Some from Central America, some from Mexico, some from as far as Southeast Asia. They've been held here for weeks, waiting for transport deeper into the United States, charged $20,000 each for passage, threatened with violence if they contact authorities. And sitting in the living room, coordinating communications on encrypted phones, are 2 off-duty Minneapolis police officers. But it's the raid in Rochester that breaks everything open. Federal agents hit the home of Chief Daniel Kovacs himself, a sprawling estate on 40 acres outside the city. The property has gates, cameras, motion sensors, and a private security team that scatters the moment they see federal warrants. Agents move through the house room by room. In the master bedroom, they find luxury that doesn't match a police chief's salary: custom furniture, imported art, a walk-in closet filled with designer suits. In the basement office, they find a command center: 6 monitors showing live feeds from police precincts, traffic cameras, border checkpoints, and IC detention facilities. Server racks humming with encrypted data. Filing cabinets filled with personnel files, shift schedules, and operational deployment maps for every law enforcement agency in Minnesota. And in a wall safe hidden behind a false bookshelf, agents find external hard drives, ledgers written in code, offshore banking access cards, and a sealed steel box containing passports, citizenship documents, and transit manifests for over 2,000 individuals trafficked through Minnesota in the last 18 months. At the bottom of that box, a satellite phone with direct encrypted links to CJNG cartel command centers in Jalisco, Mexico. 6:52 a.m., FBI Cybercrimes Division, Chicago Field Office. The room is cold and sterile, filled with the hum of cooling fans and the glow of monitors. Federal analysts have been working through the night, cracking military-grade encryption on the hard drives seized from Kovacs' estate. And what they uncover is an architecture of betrayal. The operation has a code name buried in the file system: Project Northern Shield. On the main screen, a digital network diagram appears. At the center, Chief Daniel Kovacs. Radiating outward, 230 police officers, sheriff's deputies, border patrol agents, ICE officers, state troopers, and courthouse security personnel across Minnesota. Every node is labeled with a name, rank, precinct assignment, and payment amount. The network extends like a spider web across the entire state.
Minneapolis, St. Paul, Duluth, Rochester, Bloomington, St. Cloud, Mankato.
Every major city, every border corridor, every transit hub. Analysts trace the financial flows next. Shell companies registered in Wyoming and South Dakota. Ghost corporations in Delaware. Offshore accounts in Belize, Costa Rica, and the British Virgin Islands.
Sham consulting firms.
Fake security training academies. A nonprofit called the Minnesota Public Safety Foundation that exists only to launder cartel money and has received over $60 million in donations from sources that don't exist. The money flows backward through the system in carefully structured payments. Officers received anywhere from $8,000 to $50,000 per month, deposited into cryptocurrency wallets, then converted and transferred to personal accounts disguised as investment returns or consulting income. But the payments weren't random. They were strategic. Patrol officers received payments to ignore specific addresses, to delay response times in certain neighborhoods, to file false incident reports that cleared trafficking houses and drug distribution centers. Detectives received payments to lose evidence, to compromise investigations, to leak raid schedules and witness information back to the cartel. Shift commanders received payments to alter patrol grids, to pull surveillance away from key transit routes during smuggling operations, to ensure that certain trucks, certain vehicles, certain convoys moved through the state without interference. And at the top, Chief Daniel Kovacs orchestrated it all. His digital signature is on operational orders that redirected police resources away from cartel operations. His encrypted authorization key unlocked access to state and federal law enforcement databases, giving the CJ&G cartel real-time intelligence on ICE raids, DEA investigations, FBI surveillance operations, and Border Patrol deployments. He didn't just protect the cartel. He gave them the keys to the entire state. One senior FBI analyst stares at the screen, his face pale. "This is not corruption," he says quietly. "This is command-level collusion." He turned Minnesota law enforcement into a cartel subsidiary. They find evidence that Project Northern Shield processed an average of 15 tons of narcotics per month through Minnesota, using trucking routes, rail shipments, and private vehicles driven by off-duty officers. They find manifests showing that over 2,000 trafficking victims passed through the state in 18 months, held in safe houses, transported in police vehicles, and processed through a network of corrupt officials who falsified paperwork and destroyed evidence. They find records proving that Kovacs received over $40 million personally over the course of 12 years, hidden in offshore accounts, real estate investments, and cryptocurrency holdings. And then they find the contingency plan, a file labeled Phase 4 Expansion. Inside, detailed proposals to extend the protection network into Wisconsin, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Iowa, to recruit police chiefs, sheriffs, and federal agents in neighboring states, to create a regional cartel corridor spanning the upper Midwest, shielded by law enforcement at every level. The plan was to turn 5 states into a permanent trafficking and distribution zone, a cartel fortress built inside the badge. One investigator reads the final line aloud. By 2027, the Northern Corridor will be untouchable, and the operation has just begun. 7:33 a.m., Joint Federal Task Force Command Center, FBI Field Office, Minneapolis. Dawn breaks gray and cold over the frozen city. Inside the command center, the room is packed with federal agents, U.S. Marshals, ICE directors, and military liaison officers from the Department of Defense. On the operations wall, a massive digital map glows with over 300 red markers pulsing across Minnesota, each one representing a trafficking house, drug distribution point, corrupt officer residence, or cartel safe house. The special agent in charge, a man we'll call Commander James Reeves, stands at the head of the table. He's led organized crime task forces for 20 years. He's never seen anything like this. "This is a statewide purge," he says. "We move in 90 minutes. Over 1,000 federal agents, 72 SWAT teams, air support from DHS helicopters and U.S. Customs drones. We are hitting every location simultaneously. No warnings, no mercy." At exactly 9:04 a.m., the operation launches. In Minneapolis, federal agents raid the 3rd Precinct headquarters. They move through the building floor by floor, pulling officers out of briefing rooms, detaining desk sergeants, seizing computers and evidence lockers. 16 officers are arrested on site, led out in handcuffs past their colleagues who stand in shock, unable to process what they're witnessing. In St. Paul, a SWAT team storms a drug super lab operating inside a commercial warehouse near the railroad yards. The facility is massive. Industrial-grade pill presses, chemical mixing stations, packaging lines capable of producing hundreds of thousands of fentanyl pills per week. 4 men are arrested, 3 of them former police officers who left the force within the last 2 years. agents seize 890 kilograms of methamphetamine and 3.2 million fentanyl pills. In Duluth, near the Canadian border, federal agents intercept a convoy of 3 SUVs attempting to cross into Ontario. The vehicles are stopped at gunpoint. Inside, 12 trafficking victims, mostly women and children, being transported by 2 Duluth police officers and a county sheriff's deputy. All 3 are arrested. The victims are taken into federal protective custody. In Bloomington, agents raid a luxury apartment complex where 5 Minneapolis police officers share units registered under false names. Inside, they find cash counting machines, encrypted communication equipment, and over $6 million in cash hidden in safes, walls, and ceiling panels. In Rochester, federal teams hit 4 separate trafficking houses within 15 minutes. They breach doors, secure victims, arrest handlers. In one house, they find a Minneapolis Police Patrol vehicle parked in the garage, used to transport victims without suspicion. The officer who owns it is arrested at his home 2 miles away. And across the state, in small towns and suburbs, U.S. Marshals execute arrest warrants for sheriffs, deputies, courthouse security officers, and correction facility guards who took cartel money to facilitate smuggling, to lose evidence, to ensure that certain prisoners never made it to trial. By 3:47 p.m., the numbers are staggering. 230 law enforcement officers arrested across Minnesota, 14 tons of methamphetamine, cocaine, and fentanyl seized. 163 trafficking victims recovered and placed in protective custody, 472 firearms confiscated, over $218 million in cash and assets frozen. The underworld took more damage in 6 hours than in the last 6 years. But the real damage is to trust. Because when the badge becomes the threat, where do people turn? 5:15 p.m., FBI Evidence Analysis Center, Chicago. Investigators are deep into the seized servers now, pulling apart years of encrypted communications, financial transactions, patrol logs, and internal police emails. And what they find is a betrayal so deep it feels like the system was designed to fail. Chief Daniel Kovacs didn't just recruit corrupt officers. He systematically placed cartel-aligned personnel into key positions across the entire state law enforcement structure. Analysts find evidence showing that Kovacs influenced hiring decisions, promotions, and precinct assignments to ensure that his network had officers in dispatch, patrol, detective units, evidence rooms, internal affairs, and command positions. They find records of 47 judges and court officials who received payments to dismiss cases, reduce charges, or grant favorable rulings for cartel operatives arrested on trafficking or drug charges. They find patrol logs that show deliberate gaps in coverage timed precisely with smuggling convoys moving through the state. Routes that should have been monitored were left unpatrolled. Checkpoints that should have been active were shut down for equipment maintenance. They find internal police communications showing that raid schedules, witness protection locations, and federal investigation targets were leaked to the cartel hours before operations launched, allowing key figures to escape and evidence to be destroyed. One honest Minneapolis detective, reviewing the files with federal investigators, breaks down. "I spent 3 years chasing trafficking networks," she says, her voice shaking. "Every time we got close, the investigation went cold. Now I know why. My own sergeant was feeding everything back to them." Federal agents move quickly. They arrest Captain Vincent Hargrave, the head of Minneapolis Police Internal Affairs, who was paid to bury misconduct complaints and protect corrupt officers from investigation. They arrest Lieutenant Sarah Kellerman, a shift commander who coordinated patrol schedules to ensure trafficking operations had clear transit windows. They arrest Sergeant Raymond Ortiz, who ran the evidence room and systematically destroyed or lost evidence tied to cartel cases. And they arrest Judge Franklin Myers, a district court judge who dismissed over 60 trafficking-related cases in the last 4 years after receiving payments totaling $800,000. This wasn't a few bad cops. This was a parallel enforcement system, a second police force that operated inside the official one, controlled not by law or duty, but by cartel command. One federal prosecutor says it plainly. They didn't infiltrate the system. They became the system. The badge will be rebuilt from the ground up, but the scars will last for generations.
Day 2.
10:18 a.m., Strategic Operations Center, Department of Homeland Security, Washington, D.C. Now the scope becomes terrifyingly clear. Analysts zoom out from Minnesota to the continental map, and what they see is a network that was never meant to stop at state borders. Project Northern Shield was Phase 1. Intelligence recovered from Kovacs' servers shows cartel operations extending into Wisconsin, where 12 police officers in Milwaukee and Green Bay are under federal investigation for similar corruption. It shows connections into North Dakota, where Border Patrol agents along the Canadian frontier received payments to allow smuggling convoys to cross unchallenged. It shows routes extending south through Iowa and Illinois, using interstate highways, rail lines, and private trucking contractors to move narcotics and trafficking victims from the northern corridor down into major distribution hubs in Chicago, Detroit, and Cleveland. Investigators trace shipping manifests and discover that the network moved an average of 15 tons of narcotics per month for over 3 years. Methamphetamine from cartel superlabs in Mexico, cocaine from South American suppliers, fentanyl precursors from Chinese suppliers, processed in labs across Minnesota, then distributed nationwide. They find evidence of how the network disguised operations. Trafficking victims were transported in vehicles registered to police officers or government agencies, ensuring they passed through checkpoints without secondary inspection. Drug shipments were hidden inside legitimate commercial loads, with manifests falsified by corrupt logistics coordinators and protected by officers who ensured the trucks were never stopped. Money was laundered through sham businesses, real estate purchases, and cryptocurrency exchanges, all of it flowing back to offshore accounts controlled by Kovacs and senior cartel leadership. And then they find the catastrophic file. It's labeled Permanent Integration Protocol. Inside, they see the final plan: to extend the protection network across the entire Upper Midwest, to recruit law enforcement officials in 10 states, to create a permanent cartel corridor from the Canadian border to the Gulf of Mexico, shielded at every level by badges, judges, and government officials on cartel payroll. The plan wasn't just to move drugs.
It was to own the territory.
To create a region where the cartel operated with impunity, protected by the very people sworn to stop them. One analyst reads the final assessment aloud. This wasn't infiltration. This was a hostile takeover disguised as law enforcement. The arrests continue for weeks. Chief Daniel Kovacs is detained at a federal facility, held without bail, charged with racketeering, conspiracy to traffic narcotics, human trafficking, conspiracy to commit murder, money laundering, and violations of the RICO Act. He remains silent during all proceedings. His attorney argues that his client is a dedicated public servant being scapegoated for systemic failures. The evidence says otherwise. Across Minnesota, more officers are taken into custody.
Patrol officers, detectives,
Commanders, sheriffs. Some cooperate, providing testimony and evidence in exchange for reduced sentences. Others remain loyal to the network, knowing the cartel has long memories and longer reach. The federal government initiates a complete audit of the Minneapolis Police Department, the St. Paul Police Department, and law enforcement agencies across the state. Hundreds of officers are placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Community trust collapses. Crime rates spike as citizens refuse to cooperate with police they no longer believe in. The damage is generational, but the evidence is undeniable. Minnesota law enforcement was not infiltrated by the CJNG cartel.
it was purchased.
And it operated as a cartel subsidiary for over a decade. Here's what power looks like when it wears a badge. It doesn't need violence. It doesn't need cartels running through the streets waving guns and threatening families. Sometimes power just needs access.
And silence.
And one man in the right position, with the right authority, willing to sell his oath for enough money to never worry about consequences. Chief Daniel Kovacs gave the CJNG cartel something more valuable than any tunnel, any bribe, any weapon. He gave them legitimacy. He gave them the protection of the law. He turned the badge into a shield for trafficking, for poison, for exploitation. And the cost is measured in lives. In the fentanyl deaths that surged across the Midwest while corrupt officers looked the other way. In the methamphetamine that flooded communities while evidence disappeared from police custody. In the women and children trafficked through safe houses that police were paid to ignore. In the families who called 911 and got officers who served the cartel instead of the people. This story is fictional, but the threat it represents is real. Cartels don't just corrupt systems from the outside anymore. They build them from the inside. They find the people with authority, and they buy them. They find the gaps in oversight, and they exploit them. And if we stay silent, if we assume the badge is always on our side, if we refuse to demand accountability, then we make it easier for them. If you're still watching, tap like so more people see this story. Comment expose if you want corruption like this dragged into the light. Share this with someone who thinks the system is too strong to be compromised. Because the truth is, the system is only as strong as the people who choose to protect it. And when those people choose money over duty, when they choose silence over justice, when they choose the cartel over the community, then the badge becomes the threat. This was a fictional dramatization, but the warning is real.
Stay vigilant.
Stay angry. And never assume that the uniform means safety. Sometimes the most dangerous criminal is the one with a badge and the authority to make you trust them.